In the heart of Europe, for nearly 1,000 years, there existed a realm unlike any other. It was not a kingdom in the usual sense, nor an empire in the way Rome or China might define it. Instead, it was a patchwork of duchies, bishoprics, free cities, principalities, and kingdoms, stitched together under the banner of one grand but elusive title, the Holy Roman Empire. Voltaire once quipped that this empire was neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. Yet for centuries, it stood as one of the most influential forces shaping Europe's destiny. Its emperors crowned by popes, its cities buzzing with trade and culture, its nobles scheming for power, its subjects caught in the tides of war and reform. This is the story of the Holy Roman Empire, a realm fragmented in its borders, but colossal in its influence. To understand the Holy Roman Empire, we must first return to the collapse of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century. Rome, once the master of Europe, fell to barbarian invasions. In its place rose a patchwork of successor kingdoms. Among them, the Franks under Clovis, who converted to Christianity around 500 CE, became a dominant power in Gaul and beyond. From the Frankish heartland would emerge the Carolingian dynasty, led most famously by Charlemagne. Crowned emperor in Rome by Pope Leo III on Christmas Day in the year 800, Charlemagne represented a new attempt to revive the grandeur of Rome, though now as a Christian empire based in the lands of the Franks. The Carolingian Empire did not last long. Internal divisions and Viking invasions weakened it, and by the 9th century it splintered into separate kingdoms. Yet the idea of a united Christian empire in the West lingered. By the 10th century, this mantle was taken up by the rulers of the Eastern Frankish kingdom, what we would call Germany. In 962, Otto I, Duke of Saxony and King of the Germans, was crowned emperor by Pope John XII in Rome. With this act, the Holy Roman Empire was born. It was not a simple continuation of Charlemagne's empire, but a new creation, a fusion of Germanic kingship, Christian authority, and the lingering prestige of Rome. The Holy Roman Empire was never a centralized state like France or England. Instead, it was a loose federation of territories, duchies like Bavaria and Saxony, ecclesiastical lands ruled by bishops and archbishops, and dozens of free imperial cities such as Frankfurt and Nuremberg. The emperor, elected by a group of princes, was the nominal head. Yet his power depended on his ability to command loyalty and resources from these semi-independent rulers. The balance of power shifted constantly. Some emperors, like Frederick Barbarossa in the 12th century, sought to impose central authority. Others found themselves at the mercy of ambitious princes. At the heart of the empire's identity was its relationship with the papacy. The Pope crowned emperors, yet emperors often sought to dominate the church. This tension boiled over in the Investiture Controversy of the 11th century, when Emperor Henry IV clashed with Pope Gregory VII over who had the authority to appoint bishops. In 1077, Henry famously stood barefoot in the snow at Colossal, begging forgiveness from the Pope after being excommunicated. Though Henry regained power, the struggle revealed the fragile nature of imperial authority. The 12th and 13th centuries saw the empire reach both glory and crisis. Under Frederick I Barbarossa, the empire sought to assert dominance over Italy. But the wealthy cities of northern Italy resisted, forming the Lombard League. At the Battle of Legnano in 1176, they dealt Barbarossa a rare defeat. His grandson, Frederick II, was perhaps the most extraordinary emperor. Educated in Sicily, fluent in multiple languages, a patron of science and poetry, Frederick earned the nickname Stupa Mundi, the wonder of the world. Yet his constant conflicts with the papacy drained the empire's strength. By the mid-13th century, the the empire entered the so-called Great Interregnum, when no universally recognized emperor ruled. In 1356, Emperor Charles IV issued the Golden Bull, a landmark decree that formalized the empire's structure. It declared that 7 prince-electors, 3 archbishops and 4 secular rulers held the right to elect the emperor. This cemented the decentralized nature of the empire, granting enormous power to the electors. The empire was not a hereditary monarchy, but an elective one, a system unique in Europe. While dynasties like the Habsburgs would dominate the throne, they always depended on election and negotiation. From the late 15th century onward, the Habsburg family became synonymous with the Holy Roman Empire. Beginning with Frederick III, and especially under Maximilian I and Charles V, the Habsburgs built a dynasty that stretched across Europe, from Austria to Spain, from the Low Countries to the New World. Charles V, crowned emperor in 1519, embodied the height of imperial ambition. He ruled over an empire where the sun never set. Yet his reign also exposed the limits of imperial power. The Protestant Reformation, launched by Martin Luther in 1517, fractured the religious unity of the empire. Wars of religion followed, pitting Catholic and Protestant states against one another. The emperor sought to defend Catholicism, but many princes embraced Protestantism to assert independence from both Rome and the emperor. The conflict reached its zenith in the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, a devastating struggle that began within the empire but soon engulfed much of Europe. Sparked by the defenestration of Prague, it became a war of religion, power, and survival. Cities were burned, populations decimated, and entire regions left in ruins. When the war finally ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648, the empire was left fragmented more than ever. The treaty recognized the sovereignty of individual states within the empire, allowing them to determine their own religion and foreign policy. The emperor remained, but his role was now more symbolic than absolute. The empire had become a confederation of hundreds of semi-independent states. Though weakened, the Holy Roman Empire endured for another 150 years. The Habsburg emperors retained prestige, especially in their Austrian lands. The empire provided a framework for diplomacy, trade, and culture. But the rise of powerful nation-states, France under Louis XIV, Prussia under Frederick the Great, overshadowed the empire. By the 18th century, it was seen more as an antiquated relic than a true empire. Finally, in 1806, after Napoleon's victories in Germany and the creation of the Confederation of the Rhine, Emperor Francis II dissolved the Holy Roman Empire. After nearly 850 years, the empire of emperors and electors, of popes and princes, of unity and fragmentation came to an end. In the short term, the end of the Holy Roman Empire cleared the way for new political orders in Central Europe. The Austrian Empire replaced it as the Habsburgs' primary domain. Prussia rose as a military powerhouse, setting the stage for German unification in the 19th century. In the long term, the dissolution of the empire symbolized the passing of medieval Christendom. Europe was now entering the modern era of nation-states, secular politics, and industrial growth. Why did the Holy Roman Empire matter? First, it preserved the idea of universal Christian empire in the West, long after Rome's fall. The emperors saw themselves as successors to Caesar and Charlemagne, defenders of Christendom. Second, its unique structure influenced European political thought. The empire was a laboratory of governance, elective monarchy, checks and balances between church and state, and a complex web of jurisdictions that forced negotiation and compromise. Third, it was a cultural powerhouse. The empire's cities, Cologne, Nuremberg, Vienna, became centers of trade, art, and learning. The Reformation, born in Wittenberg, reshaped global Christianity. Finally, the empire's decline reflected the transition from medieval to modern Europe. Its fall was not just the end of a political order, but the death of an idea that Europe could be united under one crown, one faith, and one empire. The Holy Roman Empire may have been fragmented, but its reach was colossal. For nearly a millennium, it bound together peoples from the North Sea to the Alps, from the Rhine to the Elbe, under a vision of shared destiny. Its emperors dreamed of reviving Rome, yet more often they wrestled with unruly princes, rebellious cities, and powerful popes. Its lands were scarred by war, yet also enriched by culture and innovation. When Voltaire dismissed it as neither holy nor Roman nor an empire, he was both right and wrong. The Holy Roman Empire was never a centralized nation, but it was holy in its claim to Christian order. It was Roman in its inheritance of imperial tradition. And it was an empire, not of uniformity but of diversity. Its shadow lingers still in the federal structures of Germany, in the idea of European unity, in the memory of a continent once bound together under a patchwork crown. The Holy Roman Empire was a paradox, divided yet enduring, weak yet mighty, a relic of the medieval past that shaped the future of Europe. And though its crown has long since faded, its story remains one of the grandest and most enigmatic chapters in the history of the world.